Looking into purchasing your first home or maybe purchasing your next home. Today, I want to sit down with a financial professional and answer some questions that you may have right after this. All right, this week my video is going to be just a little different. I'm Anthony George, Home Guy Waco, and just wanted to bring on someone with a little more knowledge than I have as far as financing goes. So I've gone out and spoke with my friend Chuck Jones over at SWBC. I'm going to have him introduce himself. I'll also put his contact information down in the description of the video. If you have any more questions after today's video, you'll be able to reach out to him. What I'm going to do is start and just have him introduce himself, and then we'll get into the questions. Hi, Chuck. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good, Anthony. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
So I'm Chuck Jones, and I'm with SWBC Mortgage here in Waco, Texas, and been in the mortgage business for going on 29 years now, and no plans to quit anytime soon.
That's awesome. Well, I get a lot of questions, Chuck, from both first-time home buyers and out-of-town home buyers, and that's kind of why I wanted to come together today. And just go through some of the questions. That way they can hear from an expert. What types of loans are available or for first-time home buyers? Can they qualify for just any kind of loan, or is there certain ones that are better for first-timers?
Help buyers get into home with little out of pocket or actually no money out of pocket. And so we actually have situations where some home buyers actually walk away from the closing table getting money back. So we have a lot to choose from.
Okay, that's awesome. So should I plan on a down payment? And if so, how much? If I can't qualify for a program, let's say, or even if I can, what should I plan for?
Yeah, well, so some of these programs that offer assistance, it's based on how much money somebody makes in a year's time. And so if they're under that certain income level, then oftentimes level, then they can still put as little as 3% down.
Okay, 3%. I hear a lot of times I should get pre-qualified, but then I hear pre-approval. What's the difference and which one's better?
Well, sure. Yeah. So pre-qualified is just a matter of, reviewing the application and credit report only and making sure that somebody fits in a certain program's guidelines. Whereas getting pre-approved takes it to kind of the next level. We actually collect documentation to verify some of that information on the application, such as pay stubs or W-2s. And then we run it through an automated approval system. So a pre-approval is definitely stronger than a pre-qualification.
Okay, so pre-approval, a little deeper dive then.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. What documentations besides, a pay stub should I need? Like, let's say if I'm self-employed, what would I need to have on hand?
Sure. Yeah. Self-employed folks definitely have to supply more documentation than if you're a W-2. So you got to be ready with 2 years tax returns. If the business is its own entity, then we have to have business tax returns as well. And because of the COVID pandemic, there's a form that they would fill out called a business summary sheet that basically describes whether or not they were affected by the pandemic adversely. And then lastly, we would need to collect some bank statements on the business.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking of moving to Waco, and that means I would have to find a job in Waco. I'm employed now. Would that make a difference if I go to apply for a mortgage, or how long would I need to be employed in Waco?
Yeah, so we're dealing with a lot of clients that are relocating to Waco right now since our market is so attractive. And so there's a couple of different ways we go about it. One is folks that are buying in Waco that may be moving in a couple of years, so they're buying their future retirement home. So we can just use the income that they currently have and classify the home as a second home. And so in that case, they would put 10% down. And then there's other folks that are actually going to relocate and live in the house as their primary residence. So those folks, as long as they have an employment letter that states that, a start date, their compensation, things like that, and there's no contingencies tied to their employment, then we can go ahead and actually close them prior to their start date.
Okay. Well, let's say I go online, find you, onto your website. I see there's a place where I can apply. How long does it take for me to get an answer?
Right. So typically, I commit 24 hours to get an answer back to somebody, but with the exception that if they're planning on making an offer that day, then typically I'll move them up as a high priority and get it done same day.
Okay. I've also heard that I shouldn't use credit until the home is closed. They always say, well, I'm closing in a few days. And I've heard people, tell other people, well, you don't need to go buy this or buy that. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, it's always a good idea to refrain from using any type of credit before closing on a home loan, because not only can a new credit inquiry or a new account affect your credit score, but also if we do realize that the new credit has been opened, and we have to verify that payment, and sometimes that could disqualify folks from actually getting the loan.
Okay. Well, why would I want to go with someone such as yourself in SWBC versus finding a local bank?
Right. Well, the reason I tell people, to go with us versus a local bank. Local banks have their place in our market. They're fantastic for land financing and construction loans, which we do not offer. However, local banks, if you're looking to buy a primary residence, they're going to require more down. So typically 10% or more. And plus, they do not offer long-term fixed rates like we do.
Okay. So the products that you offer are a little more flexible.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
All right. How much do you charge? What fees are there associated with the loan process?
Yeah, so we disclose all our fees up front, and we build everything into our loan estimate, and 100% of our fees are collected at closing. We don't collect anything up front, like appraisal fee or credit report fee, like some of these online lenders. They charge up to $500-600. But no, we don't charge anything until the closing.
All right. So what happens to those fees though if I don't close?
Well, we basically absorb those fees, and
Okay.
I'll also mention that at closing, as far as the fees goes, the buyer could pay for those fees. Sometimes the seller pays for those fees, or we can get some type of assistance to help with that.
So sometimes that's negotiable as well, just like the home, the purchase price.
That's correct.
All right. Those are the questions that I've been asked. Are there any other questions that you frequently come across with, say, first-time home buyers or relocation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that most people are just really want to know if they can buy a home or not. There's a certain level of anxiety that's just kind of built into the process. A lot of it is just because the process is unknown to them, or they feel like, oh gosh, I could never qualify. And so, the thing that we try to do up front is to be totally transparent with, our process, our fees, and also we spend a lot of time communicating, making sure that our clients know exactly where they stand every step of the way throughout the transaction. We found that if people just know where they stand, even if we have a little bit of a wrinkle or something that we need to overcome, as long as it's communicated, 99% of the time we're going to be fine.
Yeah. So it's kind of like even on my side, communication is always key.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right. Well, Chuck, I want to thank you for your time today. And if you like this content and like this video, please consider clicking the subscribe and the like button, and click the little bell to be notified as I put out new content each Monday. And like I said, I'm going to put Chuck's information in the description below, and look forward to helping you in any way that I can.